Good morning, folks. Hope you caught last night's advanced catastrophism video. Today we've got a CME to diagnose. We'll hit space news twice and then come right back to climate in the 12,000-year cycle. We're starting with our star at spaceweathernews.com, and we find the last day was much quieter than the previous one. The southern coronal hole continues to turn through. We continue to have those active regions developing on the north. They are crackling, but not flaring just yet. The solar wind is even calming back a bit this morning. A plateau of the stream is allowing the field to stabilize here amidst the reverberations. But yesterday morning we had seen the plasma filament behind the coronal hole release. It was small but worth diagnosing, and now the satellite shots from SOHO comport with stereo images we saw in yesterday's news. Here we see much of the ejecta is heading behind Earth's orbit, but there is a faint edge heading this way. That's what both Enlil spirals show now. Yesterday NASA's was correct and NOAA's wasn't, but an update a few hours later have them in agreement. It'll be a weak impact late on the 23rd. Folks, it's just a couple of weeks until the Lyrid meteor shower peaks. This one is a good one to watch in April, and since it can take as much as 3 weeks to properly plan stargazing, figured it was a good time to get this one on the calendar. This and the Perseids are my favorites of the year, by the way. And speaking of dark skies, the light is being found, as we saw earlier this week with the missing billions of galaxies in the cosmic web starting to reveal themselves with MUSE. That paper is actually free to read, and it includes a number of image returns that we didn't get in the press release. Up next, a quick study on the climate effects of changing ice volume, dust, CO2, and astronomical forcing. Turns out, CO2 doesn't really stack up so well. Not far off from there, the solar surface brightening has begun to decrease. This is not only due to its descent out of the 1900s grand solar maximum, but because clouds are on the rise. That's been a key marching point in solar climate forcing discussions, where the weaker sun allows more cosmic rays which trigger cloud growth and deepened opacity and which complement the lower solar output to drive a much larger change in energy received than you realize if you just look at the solar irradiance. The reversal of energy balance has begun. Now, before we hit our last story, folks, it doesn't just help to catch up with this series for things like our special video last night, which is highlighted in yellow and has been added to the playlist. But if you haven't seen it, you might not know about the 6,000-year half-cycle mini-events as well. This next paper discusses a strong effect seen during the second half-cycle event into the past, Helena Pali, 18,000 years ago, and also just before the last magnetic excursion and cyclical catastrophe associated with Gothenburg and the Younger Dryas. It got sharply warm and dry, just like it's doing right now on Earth over the last century, on approach to the next crescendo and descent.